Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. You all know that why we should use the word Sattology more than mythology, because mythology was used to undermine the native cultures, especially India. Because when the West could not defeat the logic of Vedas, they started saying that let's undermine it. That's what they did. What they did was they started translating. And I was told by somebody yesterday that the Indian translations were not even accepted by the Royal Asiatic Society in Britain. So if you would write a translation in your own language, that was not accepted by them. Right? That mindset still goes, vernacular versus mainstream. If you look at the population of Great Britain, then English is a vernacular language from the point of view of India. Just think about that. Okay. So don't go by the narrative of the word, go by the real meaning of the word. Whichever is less in population is vernacular. So naturally, you can say that English is a vernacular language of India. So anyway, I have a very special guest today, and we are going to talk about Indra. And you love it. So let us welcome Rupa Bhaty.
Namaste Aditya ji.
Namaskar, namaskar. So see, we have been given real heroes by our Shastra.
Ji.
Indra is a hero because he's a
Absolutely.
Devraj. He's Devraj. Yeah? Indra is a hero. Some people have many negative connotations about him, but I have read extensively Mahabharata, Ramayana. He is
Ji.
highly respected by all the Devta because he's the king of the Devta. And
Ji.
it's not some mythological story because he is in control. We have seen in how he takes care of Arjun and what conditions, what conversations he has with Arjun. And before that, in Ramayana period, we also see how he comes down and how rishis, Sutisha Rishi, Shadbringa Rishi, the great rishis are like waiting for to meet him, to go to Swarg.
Ji. Ji.
Yeah? So, so we have been the real heroes and heroines given Devis and Devta, and they
Ji.
are the Shrestha. And also, the definition of Shrestha in the ancient period was people like you would be considered a Shrestha because you are
Oh,
doing something to set an example. But unfortunately, in Kali Yuga or in the today's time of quarrel hypocrisy, we see that stars, self-titled stars, are moving around, and the only work they have is dancing around the trees or having lavish parties on the money earned by the people, and they are giving advice to the society. Now, I want you to comment on that. What do you feel on this phenomenon?
I think this is becoming a world phenomenon, in fact. And more and more people are like, I just cannot comment much about it, but uh, it's kind of uh, uh, discouraging also because there's so many people who don't know about the Shastras and things and still commanding and almost running the society. So that is a sad part. I don't have much to say about this.
See, the thing is, if you look at it, the even the West, the cult following of the movie stars is very high. So they don't have They accuse Hindus of having Devi Devta. At least Hindus have, or people who follow Veda, all of us, Sanatan Dharma, they at least have Devi Devta as a role model. But these people only have the movie stars as a role model. So if you go to any Hollywood party, people are dying over each other. People pay $4,000 ticket, $2,000. I don't know what else they pay to get to see
And
them, or to get a
exactly.
selfie with them is impossible. So when they
Ji.
accuse India of the cult following, they are also on the same, because people are expecting an ideal behavior on the screen,
Exactly.
and the villains get more popularity than the heroes. And so which is very very old thing where Ravan was a hero for some people also, and even till date. You know? So anyway, we'll get started with this. It's an exciting presentation, and then we'll continue discussion.
Sure. So today I'm talking about the decline of Indra, in fact. So he is a hero, and as you said that about the Mahabharata also, about the Indra and Arjuna Samvad. But yet we see, I'm trying to see it from the lens of astronomy, that there is a certain kind of decline itself in Rigveda. He remains the deity because he has to remain the deity, but not the foremost kind of deity. And it appears that Indra, Agni, and Vishnu they take over that. And why it is happening? So today I will try to explain that
Sure.
portion. Just let me share the screen. Yes, problem with this.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
can perfect.
Yes. Good.
Can you see?
Yes. Very good.
Okay. So as I said, decline of Indra. तो आपने तो शुरू किया, सो इंद्र के बारे में आपने थोड़ा सा हमें बताया, and that is again very interesting that you said, and I will take the cognizance of that also in some later talk when we uh, speak more about Indra's uh, akshar, that is net, and Rigveda and other things. That time we will take up what you said. So in Rigveda, he is the prime deity. So in Rigveda, Indra is the most lauded one. He is the most praiseworthy. But suddenly in Rigveda itself, he declines. So why he declines, and what was happening in Rigveda? What does these deities try to tell us? So that is all about today's talk. So I will give a glimpse of seasonal pattern before going to Indra in Rigveda. So, what was the kind of seasonal pattern in Rigveda? So, we know that there were three. That was kind of Chaturmasa, that was then divided into 12 months. The 12 spokes of year is being described in Rigveda itself. And we see the transition from three to like 5 seasons in Rigveda itself. So one can go to my blogs where I have given the description about in which mandala and sukta these are coming. So one can read them. So many seasonal pattern can be seen from Rigveda Samhita itself. That comes from 3 and went till 5 seasons. But conspicuously, Shishir is absent there. So that is not a season there. And Hemant, the word is also absent. It is known as Hima. So the phrases with the Hima comes up. But this analysis of Veda also gives us a picture of seasonal transition. It's not static. That is giving us transition of season. The picture, the imagery is in that form. But does this science of seasons of today's time give us a clue to what was happening during that time? So that we will discuss. So you saw that the three, what I've written is 3 and 5 seasons, and the other portion I've shown harsh. So Shatahima is something like a very harsh season, and that is why Shatahima Vira uh, sentence comes in sixth mandala. Now, going to like the other thing, that is the 6 seasons pattern. that comes in Yajurveda and Atharva Veda. And this Sharad is now Sharad and Shishir. Sorry, I have written Sharad there. It has to be Shishir. So Shishir comes in Yajurveda and Atharva Veda. Now, this is a transition. Now, the sixth season is coming in, and it is perfectly matching with the 12 spokes of what was mentioned in Rigveda. So, Rigveda knows the 12 spokes of year. Those are the solar months and solar days. And it also now is combining the sixth season here. So, this is what the transition is happening from 3 to 5 to 6. So, this we have noted till now. Now, before understanding again, going back to Indra, let us understand what is the late Pleistocene time. So, late Pleistocene is like 110,000 years till 11.7 kilo years, that is 11,000 years ago. From that onwards, we confront Holocene, that is the rainy season. So late Pleistocene and Pleistocene time is of the snow cladding thing, like the whole Antarctica and Arctic, that is completely snow cladded. And the season were less, the rains were very scanty. The aridity in many regions were there because of these snow claddings. And Ramana time is also happening during this late Pleistocene times, just before the terminal of Pleistocene. And moreover, Ramayana does mention all the Vedas. So that has to be kept into mind as a background knowledge before we go to the next slides. So we should also know and note that Shukla Yajurved is happening during Mahabharata time. So Shukla Yajurved is not known to Ramayana. Rama doesn't know that. That is the Krishna Yajurved portion, because Taittiriya Shakha comes from that portion where we see that Kritikas are going to like 20,000 BCE, and many of the um, astronomical entities are going back deep into deep antiquity. But there is no hint that the new Rigveda came into being during Mahabharata times. So what Vyasaji were doing, he was like Ashtaka thing, he was making it as Mandala thing, and a few changes were uh, like getting them into proper sections. He was doing in that one, so that each becomes the family. In the Ashtaka system, you won't find that the family, one Ashtaka belongs to only one family, and the second Ashtaka belongs to only other family. But in the Mandala system, it is very easy to segregate into families. And other than that, there is no addition and alteration or something new sukta or mantra coming in. So it is as it is, has been kept. Only the thing is, he was widening it. So that is why Vyasa. Vyasa means to widen, diameter, and whatnot. So many things. So here we are talking about something very ancient. So that is what we are talking about Indra. So by now, many of the viewers are familiar with this graphical representation of the chronology. And this is basically I made for the seasonal pattern, specifically for the seasonal pattern, and can be seen from here, from Rigveda Samhita itself. And as I said, that 3 to 5 season pattern. In between, you can see that there is a bar where Toba explosion is written. And after Toba, whatever the seasonal pattern continued of the Pleistocene times are being already recorded in Rigveda. We will see how these are the markers of chronology of seasonal events and why they are so essential to be remembered or to be known or to be determined. So now compare the seasonal pattern with the new sciences, which gives an idea how the Rigveda can belong to late Pleistocene times in general. And surely there are some hidden hints to them. We don't find Shishira season in Rigveda as we noted earlier. And strangely, Hima is not the deity in Rigveda. Now, it's a human tendency, probably due to its abundant availability. We don't pray for it. So we pray mostly for the things that are not available to us. It's a kind of human tendency. You might remember a song uh, in our young age. We used to have Chitraha in Doordarshan, and during the pre-raining season, the person who would have been in charge of Chitrahar, he would play Allah make de, pani de, gud dhani de. This would repeatedly come during the nearby summer solstice time. It's the peak of summers, and we will have these songs there. What I'm trying to say is it's a human tendency. We always pray for something which is very scanty or not available to us. Now we will try to understand the peak of ice age worldwide and microclimate of Himalayas. So even in today's time when there is a little snowfall there, so the whole India comes under the spell of uh, cold wave. So what was the worldwide climate and microclimate of Himalayas and how it was affecting us? So the rains were already scanty as compared to today's time. Uh, you can see the graph. The rains have just doubled from 20,000 BC years ago, that is 18,000 BC. The effect of water vapor you can see, and later half when the climate is optimum, what we are experiencing is the optimum climate. We are experiencing all six type of seasons in a very proper manner. So this is the climate optimum. It will not, we will not get some seventh season here, and we can see that effect of cloud uh, uh, in a very proper way. And this graph has been prepared by IISC, Bangalore, the scientists. So you can see what was happening worldwide. And the new sciences, the new researchers have come up that the glaciation of Himalaya was happening much earlier to uh, the late Pleistocene time, which is the peak of ice age of the world. So when the world was experiencing peak of ice age, we had already begun during 40,000 BC. The glaciation of Himalaya had already begun. So there was already a cold spell can be uh, the Indians must have been experiencing during that times. So conditions were not suitable during that time in the Thar region also. And suddenly we see that there is a disruption of stone implements also. So from 40,000 BC, we don't see any stone implements there in Thar region. So it has become so arid. The people must have uh, fled away from these places, even though the rivers were there. But other than that, the animals and other things were moving out of that place because of the aridity. So the savanna kind of condition was reducing, and it was becoming so arid that people had to leave that place, and that is why there is the disruption of stone implements. So this gives us an image that what Himalaya glaciation were creating uh, on the plains of the Rajasthan. So the aridity of the Rajasthan, then the aridity towards the Hindu Kush region, those were increasing. So this I gave a brief picture of what was happening from late Pleistocene, 110,000 years ago, till 11,700 years ago. And this is the time of late Pleistocene. And in between, Ramayana is also happening in that terminal late Pleistocene time. Now, I showed you that from 40,000 BC, the glaciation of Himalayas had already begun, and the world was experiencing the last glacial maximum around 22,000 before present. So, how to conclude that? Do we have some kind of hint in Rigveda that at that time there was a cold spell was there? So we come across Shatahima uh, verse. It comes in the sixth mandala, which is a memory of colder event in Rigveda. And it's not that it had continued in that way, but you have already seen that there were only three seasons, which became 5 seasons. So the Hima was getting added into it. So before that, it was a pleasant kind of a thing, but अचानक से glaciation जब शुरू हुआ, so that was a very cold spell. So I was comparing this with the today's snowfall. When Himalaya में जब होता है तो the whole India has the शीत लहर आती है. There is a cold spell. So one can understand that the Rigvedic seers, what they must have been having, what kind of environment they were going through and experiencing, that they had to write Shatahima Vira. So this is the uh, mantra about the one who experiences 100 of Shatahima, 100 of Hima, uh, is the most bravest. So, something so beautiful it has come. But then it has come as an Indra Vrittasur Samvad kind of. So now uh, one will try to understand what is Indra and what is Vritra here. So Vritra here is either rain or a meltdown of snow. So Vrittasur is something like snow, who is the hindrance to something, and the cloud, who is the hindrance to the rains. Uh, so in that context, Vrittasur has always come. So I equate like when the earth is like completely covered with some kind of a smoke, something like October explosion, that can also be equated with Dasura. Other than that, the snow-cladded mountains, where it has frozen all the rivers also. So it is a hindrance to the flow of river. So that can also be called a Vrittasura. So these are the things. And why Asura? Not because he's a bad thing in Rigveda. In Rigveda, Asura doesn't mean a bad guy. It means that he is more ferocious or more powerful. So that is something, uh, the strongest person is known as Asura. So even many of the deities are uh, uh, given this epithet Asura in Rigveda. So the meanings get uh, dissolved into many different meanings. And Sanskrit is all about learning where these things get fit into. So he's the strongest restrainer, the Vritasur. So we understood that. But who is Indra? So Vritra to हमें समझ में आ रहा है कि he is the strongest restrainer. But what is Indra? Who is Indra? So we will see that who is Indra actually. He is the most lauded one, and we see that Indra has come 289 times in Rigveda, more than Agni. Although Rigveda begins with Agni Mide Purohitam, still Indra is the most lauded deity here in Rigveda. So now this memory got carried only for the rains in later Puranic texts. So in the Rigveda, he is the strongest sustainer, but in later he is like the clouds, um, and is being equated in that form. And in the Puranic section, we see that the Indra, whose Vahana probably is Ashwa in Rigveda, is now having elephant as his Vahana in Puranas. So Airavata and all these things come. So this is a kind of a, memory showing a transition from the most lauded uh, deity towards something else. It's going towards something else. It's going towards rain or allowed it for rains. And now the transition of Indra and Vritra is a very slow process because the time lapse is uh, much longer. Now both will turn into apaha uh, on sudden burst. That is the snow and the clouds. So the character doesn't change much, but it appears like it is continuing into something else. So the Indra is like point where the sun is highly scorching, and which gives us the why laudation of Indra was happening during the Rigvedic time. So the Agni may not have been experiencing much heat, but the Indra is giving such a heat that he creates rain. So that memory comes into the Puranas also. So what we understand is that in one of the Rik, that is the from fifth mandala and the 69th mantra, it says that he is the upholder of airy space. Who is Indra? He is the upholder of airy space and the sphere of light. And that's the epitome of sun's declination on summer solstice day, which finally gives away the rains and rainy season. Note that this serves well only on the northern Indian latitude and some part of southern to Vindhya latitude. Now, uh, it's a beautiful pictorial presentation by Mukund Murari Dasi, and I've taken a liberty to bring it here and show it to you. So again, as I told, that he's the progenitor of rains. So he's the pointer towards summer solstice. So only two things are the pointers that of the Samvatsar. That is the Agni, Agre Nayati iti Agni, the one who takes the Samvatsar upward. And Indra is Idandra. So he is the point of summer solstice. So these two deities are, that is why lauded so much in Rigveda. So one can always say that, okay, Indra was lauded so many times, more than Agni. Then probably our new year must have been beginning from the summer solstice point. No, it was not happening. Just because we were lauding, we were praying to Indra for rains, because that was a need during that time. So that is why, and it was scanty. So rains were scanty during that time. So this is the pointer it gives, that rains were scanty, not the pointer that summer solstice should have been the new year. And this is how we have this memory. But if I'm taking about 40,000 BC of colder events, that Himalayan glaciation time it begins. So do we have a memory of summer solstice with any other nakshatra in such deep antiquity? So we have kritikas. So in your talk only we have discussed so many times about kritikas, Pleiades and Saptarishis and whatnot. Then in your talk only I have discussed uh, we have Brihadratha during 34,500 BC. and that is the time it is seeing the receding of oceans. So receding of oceans is happening due to the glaciation. Today, because of the deglaciation, the uh, ocean levels are rising, that we can understand the climate change in today's time. So we have ample of evidence which takes back Rigveda to such Indra Vritra times of Shatahima period. So this is what I wanted to show, that here Vritrasur is like lying down and Indra has killed the Vritrasur. But now he's kind of, in this picture, he's kind of lamenting. So from where does this imagery comes to Mukund Murari Das ji? So we will understand that in some later slides. So it's a beautiful pictorial presentation of Pahadi, uh, and you can see that Sri Krishna ji is like holding the Govardhan Parvata, and is the representation or presentation of monsoonal peak during Holocene times. So such a beautiful thing. In one picture, you see that snow is now going down. Vritrasur is completely killed, and Indra is lamenting now. Why Indra is lamenting? That is the biggest question. Now, in the other picture, you see that after the Pleistocene terminal, the Holocene begins. The rains begin, and rains so much rain that today half of the Pakistan is almost under flood of Sindhus. So, and I would like to say that in our times, the monsoon is in the declining side. If you remember that graph, so it's a slowly the optimal climate that is now declining. And after 2,000 years, I've studied in a paper that again the cold ice age will begin. So this was a very small spell of time when the whole earth was like not having much snow, and the population increased, and we were enjoying all those areas. Like half of the North America would be under snow. Canada would not be there. But today we have all those lands, and they are cultivated, they are having agriculture and everything, and it will again go back into ice after 2000 years. So there is a scriptural reference where it says that following the advice of the demigod, written it here, following the advice of the demigod, the Indra killed Vritrasur, and he suffered because of this sinful killing. Although the other demigods were happy, he could not derive happiness from the killing of Vritrasur. So Indra's other good qualities such as tolerance and opulence could not help him in his grief. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in 6.13.11. So why he is lamenting? Because now the deglaciation has happened, and people used to pray to Indra for rains. Now rains are abundant, so there is no rainy deity. There has to be a decline of Indra. So that is why we see the decline of Indra in post Rigvedic times, just because of the seasonal character was changing. It was changing from the Pleistocene to Holocene, and that transition is very beautifully in this interesting information is being kept alive. And I would say this is the kind of a seasonal chronology which I am discussing today. And this is necessary because this is a kind of history in our scripture. It's not a kind of fake or like kind of imagination and story, just story embedded in Srimad Bhagavatam or Mahabharata or Ramayana. So these are true seasonal thing which has to be decoded. These are not myths. Why he's lamenting? Because yes, of course, he's declining, so he's lamenting even after killing the Vritrasura. So these are something very interesting stories, and that amazing. You know, this is something very. These little stories in the Indic scriptures carry so many myriad information that we are just scratching the surface to decode them. So it's not, I'm today not decoding the astronomy part exactly, but with the help of these little stories, I'm trying to decipher what Rigveda and Mahabharata is trying to say, and Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to say. So after this, we come to another slide, and here I'm showing that Krishna is battling with Indra uh, for the transportation of Parijat tree from Indra's heaven. So people would say, okay, this is another story. So what's the heck about this story? So it has a very मतलब good meaning है यहाँ पे. It has a very deep meaning. So once the Holocene begins, we have Aushadhi, we have herbs, we have trees. Many trees are now coming into picture because of uh, good amount of moisture, a good amount of rains and water tables. Now trees are appearing. And in the taxonomy studies of flora and fauna, one can uh, go into the research paper and try to find out what was happening during the late Pleistocene times, upper Paleolithic and middle Paleolithic and lower Paleolithic times, Neolithic times, uh, what kind of flora and fauna were found, which one were getting extinct and which were one getting newly born again. So here again, due to the decline of Indra, Krishna is battling for the transporting of the Parijat tree. It again tell you a story about what was happening on Earth. You know? So and now we have ethnographic memory and those kind of stories where Indra says, Sri Krishna says that now it is not needed. Yaga for Indra is not needed. Uh, it's okay that rains are already there. So it used to go beyond Sharad also. So just not कि सितंबर 22 को शरद का जो पीक है तब तक ही रेन्स जो है अगस्त तक ही रहेंगे ऐसा नहीं इन टुडेज टाइम आल्सो टिल यस्टरडे इट वाज रेनिंग so the optimal climatic condition rains have exceeded into Sharad. And in our childhood days, I can remember that sometimes it used to rain during November also during Diwali time, and we used to like cry, "Oh God, we are not able to go out for the crackers and all." And it used to be very cold in Madhya Pradesh. So this is what I'm trying to say, that such stories are embedded there and they are not myths. They need to be connected with each other to make a full story out of that, full history out of that, from that story. So in all this thing, we come across a pattern of Rigveda with the word Hema. For staying live for 100 years instead of uh, since it was so harsh, Hima was so harsh that one had to pray for such life that one who covers that or who climbs that Hima is the Shatahima Veera. So these kind of Ashar Vachanas were given in Rigvedic time. And here I'm just trying to say that how this transition was happening. So in this slide, I'm showing that already Hima is there in sixth mandala, and sixth mandala is experiencing all this glaciation of Himalayas, and you can understand how cold it must have been and how arid it must have been. I've already showed you that imagery, already created an imagery into your mind. सो आशीर्वचन ऐसा बोल रहे हैं कि अगर आपने 100 साल जी लिए हिम के, सो यू आर द वीरा. So you should like something like what was happening during the Yajurvedic text and Atharva Veda text, where Jivem and Jivet Sharadah Shatam word is coming. So what is that trying to? These two phrases are very important to understand. You know, the Shatahima Vira and the other is the Jivem Sharadah Shatam. So Shatahima, 100 years of snow, 100 years of harsh winters, and here it is saying that 100 years of Varsha, post Varsha. So post Varsha is Sharad. So one who lives 100 of the Sharad, which is very harsh due to the monsoons going beyond Sharad, even in today's time. Uh, in the month month of August, which is almost the one month of Sharad has already passed. So we see that there is a pattern change of Ashirvachan also in Rigveda to Yajurveda and Atharvaveda. So this gives us a complete imagery of transition of season, and in this way we can do a kind of seasonal chronology here. With the help of that seasonal chronology, we can come to the conclusion that yes, Rigveda was happening, at least one part of the Rigveda, which is the sixth mandala, where the Sudhas also come, and many of the researchers they say that it must have been even I think Nilesh also says that probably 50,000 before, and in his chart he has mentioned that. But somewhere I feel that it is during the 40,000 BC to 30,000 BC. That is the time frame, and in fact, after Brihadrata, because Brihadrata doesn't take the name of Sudasa, so probably after 34,000 BC till 33,000 BC, in this time frame only, the Dasharajanya war happened, and there was a steep decline of ocean also during 500 years, during 34,500 BC till 34,000 BC. So this is the time frame that a maximum of the memory is kept alive in Rigveda, and we can see that pattern through these seasonal chronology here. So uh, here I just wanted to tell you that from that coldest spell, when the climate becomes the most arid aftermath of its begin the Holocene, and this clarifies why no system of Shishir came in the Rigveda. This also clarifies why Sharada became harsh. So Jivem uh, Sharada Shatam and Shatahima Vira. So these two kind of things come into play. And this is what the transition from Rigvedic time to Yajurvedic time, from maximum of the Pleistocene and then the Holocene, one can easily keep and be sure about it that whatever was happening in Rigveda, it was before the last glacial maximum, and somewhere it stopped there, and after that the Yajurveda thing also uh, came to kind of an end during the Mahabharata time, and there was a need of new Yajurveda. So Shukla Yajurveda comes, so Yajnavalkya and Vaishampayan thing happens, and that story is embedded in Mahabharata. So they were not even touching the Yajurveda of the earlier rishis, that is the Krishna Yajurveda. They, they, they started with a new Yajurveda, that is the Shukla Yajurveda. Atharvaved continued, Rigveda as it is continued, but the editing part got stopped there only. And that is why there is no mention of any other uh, entities like Ramayana entities or Mahabharata entities in that Rigveda. Although Vyasa did the expansion from Ashtaka system to Mandala system, it appears. But overall, uh, this is how I conclude today's talk, that the decline of the astronomical Indra, this is how it happened. and this can be understood in this form, that, why this was happening. So back to you, Aditya. Thank you so much.
Actually, the if you look at the see the people, it's very difficult for us to directly understand Rigveda. Very few people. I've got the Rigveda, all the four Veda in my house, and believe me, when I read it, and you see, you are looking for astronomical data where the star positions is, and you and very accurately mentioned many places in conversations. But if you try to make sense out of it, at this end of the day, you get bewildered actually. So the Vedanta Sutra was written to give formulas so you can understand the Veda. Everything had a purpose in writing. If you look at the Vedic, the whole how they are written, and the Vedanta Sutra, which is also called Brahma Sutra, both the is the same thing. They called Brahma Sutra Nam. 13th chapter, Krishna also reference to Chando Vividher. Brahma Sutra is mentioned that 13th chapter. So there also the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is Vyasdev has personally written. That is a commentary. Veda is given to his disciples. Paila was given Rigveda. Rigveda, the guru of Rigveda. But the same story which you said, Vritrasur, appears in Bhagavad Puran in a totally different way.
Yeah.
But it's the same content. Like if you match, you can match shloka by shloka.
Yeah.
That means they have person who is writing. It is said usually that Ved Vyas personally wrote because it was the order of Narad Muni. He wrote Bhagavad Puran. All the acharyas have commented on Bhagavad Puran. They have not commented on Veda. They have left Veda as it is and only commented on Bhagavad Puran. All the Darshan Shastra are based on Bhagavad Puran only. So Vritrasur incident is, we all know Chitraketu Maharaj, how he was given uh, a shrap. Curse is not a bad word, because curse is a bad word in English, but shrap is something for benefit of the other person. And she gave for him Chitraketu Maharaj, disrespecting Shivji. That's why she got offended and she gave a shrap. And very beautiful incident is there. Api Tulyartha Darshina, Shivji says. That in Narayana Parabhakti, he says that these are the Nakudashana Bibhyati, Swarga Apavarga Tulyartha, Api Tulyartha Darshina. That's a shloka, I forgot the. He says that whether these people are given Swarg or Narak, it doesn't matter to them. They are the Bhakt of Narayan. So he says indirectly to Parvati, and Parvati became pleased. And Parvati says that I give you a boon, that you will get mukti from the cycle of karma bandhan. And then he becomes Vritrasur. And then like you correctly said, the Indra was crying while killing him. But he had to do
Yeah.
it because that was his duty at that time. He had to do it. And he was crying and he was glorifying him. And he was, even though Vritrasur was a Rakshas, but he was glorified. He is considered worshipable by everyone for what he did. And he is himself saying, now you hit here, now you hit here, now you kill me now. And then he goes down. And Indra is also crying, both are crying. And Vishnu comes down to take him back to Vaikuntha. So the story has more feelings and more attached to it in the Bhagavad Puran.
Exactly.
Is
Ji.
more feelings attached to it. Is like somebody makes a movie out of
So,
it. It's a super hit.
living kind of a thing.
It's a living thing.
Living kind.
But if you look at Rigveda,
And
uh,
that is the beauty, I think, in Indian context, we take everything as a living entity because that is ever changing. So all these are, therefore, they are like all these elements are being termed as deities,
hmm,
and they are living entities. Everything, Anu, Parmanu, and everything is a living entity for us.
yeah, I mean, it's a very personal culture everywhere.
Ji,
And it's not that something like Dharma also is a person. Dharma's son
exactly.
is Dharmaraj.
Ji,
Yama is also a person, Yamaraj,
person.
and his son is also a person. Like everything is like Surya, like you correctly mentioned, that each graha has a presiding deity.
Ji.
and it becomes more easy for us to relate, because we look for those kind of things. So thank you, very wonderful presentation, and
Thank you.
please do comment and let us know your feedback, all of you. And there is a playlist of Rupa Bhaty you can share widely. This will be added to the playlist also. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste.